listening to the Metal Command Podcast.
Greetings, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Metal Command Podcast. Tony here with you, and today I'm here to talk about the new In Flames album entitled Foregone. And this was one I was pretty curious about because I was intrigued by what I was hearing on YouTube as far as the lyric videos and the songs that they were posting off of this album. Now, here's what I will say. As a fan of In Flames, my favorite era of the band was the Jester Race, it was Horacle, the Colony, and Clayman. Those four albums to me are brilliant. And, you know, after the Clayman, it's just been a mixed bag for me. You know, some albums have been okay, some were good, some had a few songs on them I liked, but I didn't like the album very much. And that has been the case ever since then. So there hasn't, you know, the four records that I absolutely loved in the late 90s and then obviously through 2000, they're like absolute perfection. Now, there are certain records that were a little bit weird for them. Soundtrack to Your Escape, I know there were a lot of mixed reviews on that album, and I liked it. And there were some other albums I didn't like. So when talking about this, I actually posed this question in a bunch of Facebook groups, what people think about it. I talked to friends about it, and everybody, just like I was talking about how they have a mixed bag as far as how I like their albums after 2000, after the Clayman, it was the same thing with this, which I was kind of like, okay, you know, I could hear some of the older style from their older albums making it onto this album on the stuff they had posted on YouTube. Now, I've been in that situation where you hear songs on YouTube, they do a lyric video, and then you get the album and you don't like it. And at the same token, I've witnessed a lot of bands, more often than not, actually, they put a song up and you're kind of like, yeah, it's good, but it's okay. And then you get the album and it's the worst song in the album. And I'm kind of like, okay, this In Flames album, what is this going to be like? Is it going to be more like their old stuff? Or is it going to maybe have one song like their old stuff and then everything else is going to be weird and a lot different, and it's going to be a mixed bag on the whole album? So anyway, my opinion is this. Number one, they do add quite a bit of their older style and kind of integrate it with the new stuff, the newer stuff they've been doing, let's say the last 15, 20 years, which I thought was interesting. The first half of the album, I think, is very good. The second half of the album, you know, it's kind of, let's put it this way. When I listen to this, after I get past Foregone Part 2, I sort of, you know, the songs are hit or miss for me. I would say that, in my opinion, compared to, say, the material they have released over, say, the last 10, 15 years, I will honestly tell you that this album is a lot better than anything they've done in the last 10, 15 years. That's at least my opinion on it. Now, is it as good as their old stuff? You know, Jester Race, Clayman, Horacle, Colony? No. I don't think it is. I don't think they have. I mean, it's a lot better than what they were doing, say, the last 10, 15 years, but I don't think it's on par with those albums, which are absolute classics. Now, for me, anybody that knows me knows that there are a lot of instances where I like a band's newer material than, say, the older stuff or the albums that everybody says are legendary. And I like to keep an open mind on it. I did like this album, actually. Like I said, I like it a lot more than what they've done, say, the last 10, 15 years. Because what I think that they do, one thing I do like about it, they do add a lot of the elements from their older material and they kind of mix in some of the sounds from their newer albums. But to me, I think from the songwriting perspective, I don't think it's up to par from the older stuff that they had done. Which, you know, I went into this really wanting to absolutely like this album and give it a 10 out of 10, but I'm not going to do that. So with that being said, my rating's basically 7 out of 10. It's definitely better than the stuff they were doing over the last 10, 15 years. Most definitely. I mean, it's up there. And there's some really cool parts. They add some melodic vocals in like they've done on previous albums, and it fits. But I find myself, like, anytime I want to go listen to In Flames, what happens is I find myself reaching for the Clayman, which, by the way, I will give them props on. I like the anniversary edition of the Clayman, and the redone versions of the songs, I sounded good. So I want to give them some props for that. But for this, again, it's definitely, it's not like a must-have album. Like, I'm not going to say, oh my God, this thing's 10 out of 10. But it definitely doesn't suck either, and it's not too bad. So I give it a 7 out of 10. I think it's a good listen. In the next year or two, when I go and listen to In Flames, is this going to be my first choice? No. But it was an enjoyable album to listen to. But it's not something that I'm going to be like the first thing I go to when I go and look in their catalog, either on the CD rack or in my phone if I'm in the car. So that's where I'm at with it. A lot of people that I've talked to, and I've been reading in groups and forums on Facebook, everybody's opinions. It's a wide spectrum. I've seen people say this album absolutely sucks, and I've seen people think that it's literally the greatest thing since sliced bread. For me, I'm kind of in the middle of that. I don't really think it sucks, but it's not something that, again, is going to be my first choice in, basically when I go to listen to In Flames. So with that being said, thanks for watching. If you like what you see in here, again, subscribe to the video. I am curious, because this album is such a mixed bag. I want to know your thoughts on the album, folks. Anybody that's an In Flames fan, if you like this record, I'm curious what you like about it. And if you dislike it, I'm also curious, because, again, in the very beginning, I was a little bit underwhelmed, but then the more I listened to it, I liked it. But I don't like it as much as the old stuff. So with that being said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.